G'day, I'm Paul. That car behind me has been around longer than my hairstyle, which is a long time, but precisely the third generation Nissan X Trail has been around for about 7 years. So it's getting a bit long in the tooth. Nissan has rolled out some special editions, and this one here is called the N-Trek. It's going to set you back about $40,000, and you can see the rest of the pricing of the X Trail range in the comments below. And this one here sits just beneath the top spec model. There is a new version of the X Trail coming probably next year or the year after. They're working on it as we speak, but this used to be the best-selling SUV in the world, but it seems to have now fallen out of favour with a lot of buyers. Now, if you're a bit pressed for time, if you look up there's some time codes. You can skip ahead to other parts of this review. Otherwise, you can scroll down to the description where you have our time codes. You simply click on those and they'll push you ahead. If you haven't done so already, I'd love for you guys to subscribe to our channel and also press the bell icon. That'll tell you each time we have a new car on video. Let's chat styling. So 5 exterior colours. The thing I find interesting, yes, the car is ancient, but you never would have picked it. When you look at it from the outside, it actually still looks really good. And we were just discussing this before, that regardless of the age of the car, people are still buying this based on perception, but also the looks. So you're not deterring any people there. The N-Trek simply steps it up. You've got these weather shields here and along the side of the car. And a fascinating thing at the front here is the use of black and chrome. It actually works really well. Normally when you have chrome up against something so dark, it kind of looks a little bit tacky, but Nissan's done a good job there. And they haven't gone overboard here with grille. LED running lights, so you see them sitting there. Come around to the side here, you'll see the 19-inch alloy wheels, and because SUV, you've got this plastic cladding on the outside. That kind of gives it that rugged look and that rugged appeal, which I guess Nissan's known for. As we go more along the side of the car, have a look at this little hump here. This services the 360-degree camera, so I'll run you through that one when we go inside the car. These are those weather shields I was talking about, some sturdy roof racks there, and then right around the back of the car, you have more LED light treatment around here. Again, this is something that helps the X Trail stand out. It is still a good looking car, isn't it? And then the N-Trek badge there. Let's talk styling. Unlike the exterior, the interior is pretty bland. There's a lot of black in here, and it's only really broken up by the small infotainment screen. It kind of looks a little bit modern, but it's nowhere near as trendy or as fancy as things like the new CX-5 or even the Ford Escape, the Volkswagen Tiguan. They've all really stepped the game ahead in terms of providing a premium and stylish looking interior. Now, let me get my hardness tested, because this is something we have started using to see how hard some of the materials are in cabins. This is from 0 to 100, 100 being a hard surface. So I'm going to test this now. So on the top here, we get a reading of 60. That's actually pretty good. But this bit here, which looks like it's soft material because it's got this fake stitching through it, isn't actually soft. Have a look at this. That maxes the meter out there at 98. And then if we have a look here at the center console cover, that's a more modest 19. That's even softer than the Mazda CX-9. That's a $70,000 car, the one that we tested. So that is impressive, but it is a little bit disappointing that even with this, they've gone to no effort to actually make that a soft touch surface and perhaps even offer a different color here to break apart a lot of the black. Even these highlights here are in black, so you really cannot get past that as the main color of this interior. So we've had a look at style, let's look at infotainment. And there's actually an Instagram question here from Andy Ports. The question is, does it have Apple CarPlay? Andy, unfortunately, it doesn't. So despite having a screen that would be perfect for Apple CarPlay, this doesn't have it, and it probably won't be coming until the new model arrives, which is really disappointing. Moving on, 7-inch infotainment system. This really isn't a very good infotainment system. If you want to see a full review of this, you can click up here and watch our full infotainment review. But in short, 7-inch screen, it is fairly high resolution, but the functionality of it isn't great. We've already seen it doesn't come with any smartphone mirroring. There is a Nissan Connect app, which allows you to extend the functionality of it with extra apps, but that really doesn't work very well, and it has like a 2-star rating on the App Store, so that kind of gives you an idea of what owners actually think of that application. Radio-wise, AM, FM, DAB digital, so at least it's got a breadth of options to choose from there. Navigation is built into the screen. It's not super easy to use. To actually get to the screen where you put navigation details in, it's like a 2-step process, 3 before you even reach the first entry point. So that is a little bit slow and confusing. And all of the menu structures just don't really make sense. They're all kind of all over the place. So that is a disappointing system. Outside of the infotainment system, you've got an 8-speaker Bose stereo. It's actually a pretty good sound system, so tick to this and there. Dual zone climate control. This cluster's easy to use. You have one USB port, two 12-volt outlets, and then an auxiliary port as well. Heated seats. You also have hill descent control, an ability to switch between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, which I'll go into a bit more detail when we hit the road in the car. And then safety features, you have low-speed AEB, so that only works at city speeds. You also have basic functions such as rear cross traffic alert and a 360-degree camera. Now, the 360-degree camera sounds good in theory, but the implementation isn't very good. It's very low quality and it's pretty hard to see out of it at nighttime. So I feel like I've been pretty negative here in terms of the X Trail's interior. Let me know in the comments below. Have you bought one of these? What am I missing here? Is there redeeming qualities about the interior? Let me know in the comments below. What about practicality and comfort? I guess you could look past a lot of the deficiencies here if it is actually a comfortable car to sit in and to drive. So, phone storage. I'll grab my phone. It sort of doesn't really fit up the front there. That's going to move around a lot. And it doesn't really fit in the cup holders either. What about an actual bottle? That fits in there, and then there's a center divider in there as well. And in the door, you've got door pockets. They're not huge, so you'll fit a bottle plus a couple of other odds and ends. The center console is fairly deep. You can almost lose half a hand in there, and that's where your other 12-volt outlet is. And then the glove box is pretty decently sized as well. The seats themselves are really comfortable. So you have a really nicely appointed seat there. It hugs you in nicely, and it feels like it would be good for a longer road trip. In terms of the park brake, this is like stepping back in time. It's a foot-operated park brake. Most manufacturers these days use an electrically actuated park brake, so you just pull a little switch. This is seriously old school, and then when it does become a little stretched, you have to push it virtually into the carpet to activate the park brake, so that's a disappointing thing to have. And here where I rest my knee, it's all extremely hard there. I'd love to see a soft surface there, so for longer drives, you don't get fatigue on your knee as you're going around corners and keep bumping it. Okay, I've got to throw a positive in here, and I've just found one. The carpets. It's a bit like a Rolls Royce. They're plush pile. Your fingers almost get lost in them, so they look very nice. Your kids are going to like it back here because there is acres of room. There's even acres of room for an adult. I've got this in my normal driving position and I've got plenty of knee room there. Toe room's pretty good as well with my plush pile carpet. Rear air vents as well to keep you cool on those hot summer days. But you'll notice here there's a lack of USB connectivity, so charging the kids' devices just isn't going to be happening back here. Now, it may look like there's no center armrest, but this is quite a clever system. Instead of a 60-40 split folding seat, this is like a 40-20-40. That adds up to 100. This drops down and then you have access to the boot, and then in there you've got your two cup holders, and this sort of gives you a nice divider between the two backseat passengers. You then have ISOFIX points, and because this car is available in 7 seats in some configurations, it means that these seats can slide forwards and backwards. So that gives you a bit more flexibility in terms of boot room too. You've got map pockets in the back of the seats, and then also pockets in the doors, but while they fit a bottle, you can't really get much else in there. There's not a great deal of room for odds and ends. Let's look at cargo space, but before I open it up, have a listen to this. That's plastic. So Nissan actually developed a system with a plastics company to replace all the metal or aluminium that you'd normally find on a boot lid, because it kind of doesn't stand the logic test. Why would you need to have a full metal boot lid when you can save 30% of weight by going entirely plastic? So that's a really clever way to do things by Nissan. Here you have 565 litres of cargo space available, but there are so many clever features. While this is the base of your load floor, it can be dropped down. You can either hide things under here, or if you want to lower the load floor altogether, you simply drop these down, and then you have a second stage of load floor loading. You can remove them altogether and reveal your space saver spare tyre under there. Pop this all back. Let's have a look at the cargo blind. This obviously extends to cover your luggage. It sneaks into place there. But what if you don't want it there? Normally what you would do in an SUV like this is take it down, and then it'd sit there and get in the way of everything. But there is a clever solution here from Nissan. We tuck this out of the way for the moment, pull these two sides off, and then, like magic, that disappears. So you all of a sudden have a hidey hole for your cargo blind. What about these seats? They drop pretty easily as well, the way they disappear. And that is how you get your 945 litres of cargo space. Remember too that behind here, You've also got load hooks. If you do need to secure anything, you just tie them down to that, and then your jack lives off to the side here. So that is a really practical and usable space, and I love this dual tiered floor system. How practical is it though? Let's get our luggage. So that slides in there. Even if the seats were up, that would still fit. And then we can also throw our bag in as well, just for reference. Look at that. This is the definition of a family hauler. So I've hit the road in the X Trail, and the first thing I've noticed here is how light the steering is. My goodness, the wheel itself is actually really nice and sporty. It's got a flat bottom on it. It kind of feels like it belongs in a sports car, not a family SUV. But outside of that, the actual response to the steering is excellent, which means when you are parking and doing slow speed maneuvers, it's going to be easier to get the wheel around without too much resistance. We've got 3 different driving modes per se. When I say driving modes, I mean where the torque is going to get distributed. So you can lock the car into 2-wheel drive, which sends torque exclusively to the front wheels. You then have traction control and stability control on top of that, but that always limits it to 2-wheel drive. You can then flick it over to auto. Auto then investigates how much traction control intervention comes in, and it tells the car, okay, the front wheels are slipping, let's send some torque to the rear axle, and the second it needs it, it shuffles all the way back there. You then have a final mode, which is 4-wheel drive lock. That's the mode you can use on unsealed surfaces because you don't want the differential winding up. And that sends an equal amount of torque to all 4 wheels, and that's good if you're doing any light off-roading. In terms of ground clearance, you've got around 220 millimeters of ground clearance available to you. So you're not going to be trekking across Australia, but there is enough there in case you need to go to a campsite or some remote location where you've got to clear some obstacles. Under the bonnet is a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol engine. Produces 126 kilowatts of power and 226 Newton meters of torque. It's not a groundbreaking amount, but I quite like the way that it interacts with this gearbox. The only thing I don't like is that there really isn't a turbocharged option. You can go down the path of a diesel, but I'm not a huge fan of that diesel engine. This is kind of the best compromise between the entry-level 2-litre and that diesel engine. One of the benefits of not having a turbocharged petrol engine is the fuel economy, which is a combined 8.3 litres per 100 kilometres. We've been averaging a little over 9, which is about where you'd expect it to be with a mix of mainly city driving and highway driving as well. The engine is mated to a continuously variable transmission. Now that name, CVT, it sends chills down the spines of some car enthusiasts, but I actually think it's a pretty good implementation of it here. A CVT is always quite a noisy thing to have in a car because the second you step on the throttle, the revs climb and it erupts into a flurry of torque delivery. But as is the case here in the Nissan, as you roll into the throttle, it actually gradually increases the torque. So it really gets you into the torque band of the engine and makes it all quite seamless. And in my opinion, that's way better than a dual clutch gearbox, which can be quite clunky, especially on hills. Let's talk about the ride. You would assume that in a medium SUV, you want a soft ride that really soaks up bumps nicely. The X Trail, on the other hand, errs on the side of sportiness, which isn't great because you want to be comfortable behind the wheel. The 19-inch alloy wheels probably don't help, but the suspension is tuned for sportiness, which means it is quite firm and can be quite jittery. Even on almost a perfectly smooth surface like this, we're feeling everything through the cabin here, which really isn't a pleasant feeling. Let's talk visibility quickly. At the front, it's great. I can see the end of the bonnet there, so it makes parking pretty easy. The wing mirrors are big, and that's great because you're never going to lose anything in there. And then built into the side here, you've got a blind spot monitor. Visibility at the back is excellent as well. The window is huge. The only thing you're going to run into is if you have a car full of people, seeing over their heads could be a little tricky because the heads are quite in line there with the rear window. What about cabin noise? It's not too bad. It isn't fantastic. It's not very quiet, but equally it's not as loud as some of its competitors in this segment. So that means if you are driving on a country road and you are going on coarse chip surfaces, it's not going to send you deaf while you're traveling along with the family. So the Nissan X Trail, the problem with the Nissan X Trail isn't so much the Nissan X Trail, it's all of the other competitors in this segment. The medium SUV segment is so competitive that right now a car like this that's old and out of date in terms of technology just doesn't represent good value for money. So why would you actually buy one? Well, it still looks really good. It's nice and modern. Dealers are doing really good deals on them because they need to get rid of stock. So from a value proposition, this is fantastic. You can load it up with the family and all your stuff. But if you are looking at it comparatively against its competitors, they're all materially better in most ways. They have better engines, better tech, and are a better value proposition. So save money if you want to buy this, but if you do want the best in the class, this isn't going to be it. If you like this video, I would absolutely love if you guys could hit the like button, press subscribe, and also press the bell icon as well. That'll tell you every single time we post a new review. But in the interim, let me know in the comments below, did you buy one of these? What do you like about it? And what convinced you to buy it over some of its competitors? I'm really keen to get the feedback from you guys. You can also see the full review of this car at carexpert.com.au. But until next time, take it easy. Digital radio.
Chitty McGuire.
Scared the out of me. Holy, why is that so loud? Holy.